Our friend Matt Larkin at Daily Faceoff had the Edmonton Oilers as one of the 5 teams who got noticeably worse over the offseason. And while I get the way you can come to that conclusion of like, okay, Corey Perry was a 20-goal scorer, he's off the roster. Evander Kane was good to great at points in the playoffs. At points he was also not, but that's a guy who's now off the roster. And then you had Arvidsson and Skinner who are gone, and the only guys they brought in are Mangiapane, Howard, and they're probably not counting Savoy in this equation, but I think you can. Where I have a problem calling the Oilers like noticeably worse is let's remove the name value from these guys and just look at them for what they actually produced. Getting, what was it, a combined 30 goals from Arvidsson and Skinner? Granted, a lot of them were at 5-on-5, but getting 30 goals from Arvidsson and Skinner, you will get 30 goals from Trent Frederick and Andrew Mangiapane next year. Yeah. I am pretty convinced of that.
Yeah, and then there's the 2 young wingers in the mix too. Isaac Howard, of course, Matt Savoy. I mean, it is a we talked about this back in July, and I think it seems like a different conversation now because it's August and things have happened and we're all bored. But I think the conclusion that we all came to when we talked about this over a month ago was that the Oilers are probably worse. They are worse now than they were in the Stanley Cup final in June, but that's inevitable. And are they worse than they were this time last year? And that's what we're worried about because, you know, they have plenty of time during the season to make the moves they need to make to improve themselves. And I think what we care about as people following the Oilers coming into the 2025-26 season is how much flexibility do they have to make a move? If the Oilers had gone and traded more first-round draft picks and more prospects and X, Y, and Z, whatever, put themselves, 1 cent away from the cap ceiling or gone over because of LTIR, whatever that people wanted them to do, then do they have a single bullet to spend at the trade deadline if something different goes wrong that nobody expects? Like we just talked about, you say Makar gets injured or Bouchard gets injured.
Yeah.
Nobody's expecting that at the beginning of their season. So you don't really know what the Oilers are going to have to do come January, February, March. And that always seems to be when they add a key guy, right? There's been Evander Kane or Corey Perry or I don't know, John Klingberg's not really a key guy, but one of those January additions that was good. And that's sort of what they do. So I'm not too concerned about where the Oilers stand in the first 3 months of the regular season, because for me, this is regular season starts in January.
Totally. And that's what I was just going to say. Like, are the Oilers better? Do I view the Oilers as better right now than I viewed them a year ago, if that makes any sense? Like, no, because we were so hyped about Skinner and so hyped about Arvidsson. But the reality of it all is that January, whatever last year, the Oilers had Podkolzin and Kapanen playing with Leon Draisaitl. It was not Skinner. It was not Arvidsson. So if you want to talk about the Oilers potentially being worse this regular season than they were last year, I think you need to do it in the context of how their ads last offseason, and now those being the guys who are out the door, how they actually performed. Because, like, who was the Oilers' top 6 for the bulk or for their good stretches last year? McDavid, Nuge, Hyman, Draisaitl, Podkolzin, Kapanen. All still here. Now you have the upside of Howard. Now you have the upside of a guy of Savoy. Mangiapane probably can't be a worse fit than Viktor Arvidsson was. What's a healthy Trent Frederick? Like, I know from talking to the guy's dad in Florida how bad his ankle was. Like,
you could see it when he was playing.
Anyone with 2 eyes is like, wow, this guy is definitely not
around.
Yeah. If he's healthy, he's still well under 30. There's an idea, and what you said too, that their big ad comes at the deadline. Like, if you want to talk about the Oilers potentially adding scoring, first off, they have their second and third rounders next year. They didn't have that many picks in last year's draft and at the deadline last year. And then the year after, they have their, I believe, first, second, and third. And the year after, I think they have their first, second, and third as well. Like, they have a chance, as much as Sam O'Reilly for Isaac Howard kills one prospect you can trade, you have Ike Howard, so it doesn't matter. But, like, you can legitimately dip into some future assets in terms of draft picks at this deadline. If they're way better positioned, here's a good way for me to say it, they're way better positioned to make a big splash at this year's deadline than they were last year.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you look at the very least, they have the second and third round pick in this year's draft to dangle, and then they also have the first in 2027, and then you look ahead to other drafts, 2028, there's 2 third round picks there. So there is some draft pick capital, and then, I mean, I'm not going to say the Oilers have a strong minor league system, but there are some names in there that might make it a little bit easier for Stan Bowman to make a big splash at 2026 deadline, as opposed to last year where, I mean, Wallman, Frederick, good additions, but not maybe the superstar edition that some fans wanted, especially the superstar edition between the pipes, which I think is what we've been talking about for trade deadlines for years, right?
Yeah, and just this is such a big look ahead. But if you were to look at I'm looking at the free agent, like pending UFA wingers for this coming or for next summer. So the guys who could be the rentals at this year's deadline. Could you see a world where Seattle sucks? Absolutely. Like,
yes, I don't see a world where they don't.
Okay, well, right, like, what if a Jaden Schwartz or a Mason Marchment shakes loose there? And those are the big name rentals. Like, one of those, Mason Marchment would look awesome in an Oilers jersey come playoff time. Islanders, they could very well suck. What if they're trading Anders Lee as a pure rental? That'd definitely be an option. What if Buffalo has to do the pure rental thing with Alex Tuck? Like, there's a chance that there are 4 really, really good wingers on the market, and the Oilers would absolutely have the draft capital to go out and get one of those guys. And then I guess the other thing you'd want to keep an eye on is who are the goalies that are potentially available at the deadline. And the pending UFAs between the pipes, you would need New Jersey to suck, but there's maybe a world where it's Jacob Markstrom. And if Minnesota sucks, there's a world where Philip Gustafson's available as a UFA because they have Wallstedt behind him. Cam Talbot in Detroit, that would be more of like a stopgap where whatever. You know, let's see what 32-year-old Laurent Brossoit looks like coming off his injury. He had good runs with Vegas, or like good stretches with Vegas, I should say. I don't know. I just think there's some really interesting names on the market heading into the deadline, and just sitting here and throwing your hands up and being like, the Oilers are worse than they were last year. 1, like you said, too early to do that. 2, I think it's actually way too harsh on them to do that because in the moment, sure, but they've filled their lineup now with upside. And that's kind of what you have to do. Like, you're right. The regular season starts in January. So what a smart organization, I'm hoping the Oilers are that this year, would do, Howard plays a ton, Savoy plays a ton, and then by January you say, okay, is one of them or is both of them a solution for us come playoff time? If not, send them down to Bakersfield, and we know what we need to get at the deadline.
And then these are also young players that can be used in a trade as well. Like, you have players like Howard and Savoy and potentially maybe a Ty Emberson, a name like that, where if you have to add a roster player to go and get the number 1 winger, the number 1 B-man available on the market, then maybe that's what you have to do. But the Oilers are going to know what they have to do because they're going to spend October, November, December figuring it out, rather than saying, all right, it's October the 8th and we're going to try and win the Stanley Cup tomorrow. It's not going to go like that.
100%.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.